Many years ago, when I was a parish priest, I was counseling a young woman in the congregation who was having a rough time. Her marriage had broken up. She was living on her own with two small children, and her faith was understandably stretched to the breaking point. Whenever we met, there was a constant refrain that emerged through her tears. "I just need for my marriage to be healed," she said. One day, after hearing once again how much she needed healing, I confess that I got a little impatient. "You know," I said, "your divorce is final. Your ex-husband has remarried. And that part of your life is over. You don't need healing now. What you need is resurrection." Well, as soon as the words came out of my mouth, I was horrified to think that I had been so brutally honest. My fear was that she would completely freak out, or at least never want to talk to me as her pastor ever again. But what happened was that she stopped crying, looked me in the eye, and very calmly said, "What did you say?" I knew I had to tell her because there was no going back. So I said, "You don't need healing now. You need resurrection." To my surprise, she nodded and even began to smile. "You're absolutely right," she said. "I can't go back to the way things were before. Resurrection is my only hope." In the coming weeks, she began to identify that moment as a breakthrough in her grief process. She thanked me for what I'd said and even began to tell other people how much that offhand comment of mine had helped her. And believe me, that wasn't what they taught me to do in seminary. It must have been the Holy Spirit working in that situation. But over time, I've come to see a deep truth in what was really her insight more than mine. Sometimes we can't get better until we admit that the thing we love has died. Death is real, and it hurts. But God can bring new life even when all hope is gone. In the gospel today, we heard about the raising of Lazarus, where there is no doubt that we are talking about a death that is just as final as death can be. Jesus waits 4 days to make sure that everyone knows it's too late for a healing miracle. When the disciples fail to follow his metaphor about their friend being asleep, Jesus spells it out for them. Lazarus is dead. Both Martha and Mary reproached Jesus for waiting so long. "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." The body of Lazarus has been buried in a cave with a big stone blocking the entrance, and everyone knows that what Martha said is true. It's been 4 days. Already there is a stench. The finality of this death is real. Now, Martha says she knows Lazarus will rise again at the last day, but that's a long way off. Doesn't help her so much right now. Mary is weeping. Their friends from Jerusalem are weeping. Jesus himself weeps and is deeply moved. Death hurts. Death hurts like a sharp pain in the gut that doesn't stop and won't go away. "Take away the stone," Jesus says. Then he prays. Not a form of intercession or a cry for help, but a thanksgiving that God has already heard his prayer. I wonder, maybe weeping was the prayer. Deeper than words, more honest than any petition. Lazarus, come out. The impossible becomes reality. The dead man does come out, still wrapped in strips of cloth with his face covered by a shroud. He is alive again, but he needs the community's help to be truly free. Unbind him and let him go. The unbinding of Lazarus reminds us that resurrection isn't a magic trick that instantly wipes away the trauma of what came before. It's a process, often a slow and messy one, of coming back to a life that has been forever changed by the struggle with death and grief. We also see this kind of struggle in a powerful scene from Wallace Stegner's novel, Crossing to Safety. Stegner tells the story of two married couples who have been friends for a long time. And now Larry and Sally and Sid and Charity are all on holiday together in Italy. Lovers of fine art, they visit the museums and churches around Florence to explore the wonders of Italian medieval and Renaissance painting. But they have to pace themselves because Sally is a polio survivor who is paralyzed from the waist down, and for many years she's been unable to walk without assistance. One sunny afternoon, they visit some churches containing paintings by an artist named Piero della Francesca. And in one place they come to a chapel with a picture showing Christ starting up from his tomb just at the moment of resurrection. This painting takes their breath away. Here's Larry describing what they saw. That gloomy, stricken face of Jesus was not the face of a God reclaiming his suspended immortality, but the face of a man who until a moment ago had been thoroughly and horribly dead, and still had the smell of death in his clothes and the terror of death in his mind. If resurrection had taken place, it had not yet been comprehended. A discussion ensues among the four friends. One of the women, Charity, is critical of the painting. If the artist wanted to depict the resurrection, she says, shouldn't he have tried to capture the joy, the beautification, the wonder that would naturally accompany the triumph over death? But instead of trying to paint the joyfulness of Christ's sacrifice, Piero almost seemed to call it hopeless. No one argues with her. But Sally, the polio survivor, leaning on her crutches, stands transfixed in front of the painting. She studies it soberly, her husband Larry observes, with something like recognition in her eyes, as if those who have been dead understand things that will never be understood by those who have only lived. Sally's recognition in front of that painting brings us back to that young woman in my office years ago. Both women understood a truth that often escapes us in our desire for a more comfortable healing. Resurrection is not a bypass around grief, but a way through it. In the face of death, God doesn't offer us a healing that merely restores us to the way we were before, as though we have only lived. Instead, God invites us to come out of the darkness of our tombs, even with the smell of death still on our clothes, so that we can stand upright and walk into a new day. We may still be a little shaky on our feet. We still need our friends to help us get free. But we're no longer stuck in death's dark cave. we're people of a very tender resurrection, still unwrapping the bandages from our wounds, walking out of the tomb into a life that will never be the same as it was before, but just might surprise us with something new.